Ladies and gentlemen, my first guest tonight is a professor of law and gender studies at Brandeis University and a leader in the fight to end gender-based violence. Her new book is Believing. Please welcome to The Late Show, Anita Hill. Thanks so much for being here.
Oh my goodness, thank you.
I want to get to your book right here, Believing, in just one moment. But first, I just found out you're one of 13 children.
Yes.
Where do you fall? I'm the youngest of 11.
Really? We could trade stories.
We could. It takes that long to get it right sometimes, doesn't it?
No, I think so.
I like to do this with people with big families. Are you good at like saying the names top to bottom fairly quickly?
Oh, I can.
Do you want to race?
Okay.
Do you want to race?
Oh my goodness.
I'll give you a head start. I'll let you get 2 names out before I start because
Okay.
I'm 11. Ready?
Okay.
I'll say 1, 2, 3, go. And you start top to bottom, however you do it. Ready? 1, 2, 3, go.
Aretha, Albert,
Jimmy,
Alfred,
Eddie, Mary, Billy, Margaret, Thomas, J. Lou, Paul, Peter, Stephen.
Oh my goodness.
Sorry, I thought this was a contest.
I did.
I apologize.
You practiced. You have practiced.
I have practiced my entire life. Now, thank you so much for being here. It's always an honor to speak to someone who is iconic in modern American history. I certainly remember listening with rapt attention to all those hearings. This is 30 years ago, your testimony against Clarence Thomas transformed the national conversation on sexual harassment. Did you know in this moment, did you realize in this moment that your life was about to change forever?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And in fact, I thought I would be able to go home and keep teaching law, commercial law, and contracts, and it would be fine.
And you
but it was turned upside down. It was completely turned upside down. It was chaos and turmoil and threats to my job and threats to, just about every aspect of my life. But I hung in there. And one of the things that helped me hang in there was what I kept hearing from people who had been suffering from a form of gender violence, one or the other, whether it was incest or bullying or sexual harassment or rape or sexual assault, all of the above.
And your testimony gave them hope or courage? What did they say to you?
I think many of them, it gave people courage and hope. I guess it really hadn't dawned on me what my testimony meant until a few years ago, maybe about 10 years ago now. I was speaking at a high school. It was a vo-tech school, and we were all in the cafeteria, and this young man, high school student, stepped up to this open mic that they'd set up, and he said to me, "How does it feel to know that you've changed the world?" And I really didn't have an answer, but what that did for me was to make me act as though I could change the world. I mean, that inspired me because someone that age to have that perspective, and I realized in a real way who I was changing the world for. A generation of people who otherwise will inherit the problems that are left over from my generation.
Biden was he chairman at the time of Judiciary?
He was chairing the Judiciary Committee.
And he has since apologized to you
Yes.
for your treatment and the way he spoke about you during those hearings. You find some fault with how much he has responded to the needs of women, especially gender violence. What else would you like him to do?
Well, first of all, I think he needs to acknowledge that gender-based violence is prevalent. It is persistent in this country. It's been around for generation to generation, and the next generation is going to inherit it because it, in fact, is going on in elementary schools right now and universities and to young people when they enter the workforce. I would like for him to acknowledge the level of this problem and the significance of the problem, not just to the individual victims and survivors, but to our country as a whole, and how it is eating away with our values and our traditions of equality in this country. And so an acknowledgement would be a start. But then, of course, I want him to start doing some building.
To give him his due, he did champion the Violence Against Women Act in the mid-90s.
Yes, yes.
Is that the sort of thing you're talking about?
And, you know, I was, in fact, when he did call to apologize to me personally, one of the things that he didn't do was to talk about how that 1991 hearing had really torn people apart throughout the country. And so we talked about that, but then he said that he had gone on, he'd worked and been a sponsor, co-sponsor of the Violence Against Women Act. He was heavily involved in the Obama administration with the campus crusades against sexual assault on college campuses, very important work. And what I said at that time was, I said, all of those things together, including 1991, really positions him as a leader, someone who could really do something about the problem, has an investment in it, and would allow him to be held accountable for 1991 and for reversing some of that damage.
Well, the new book is called, the full title, Believing: Our 30-Year Journey to End Gender Violence. Gender violence on its surface, the phrase in its simplest form, is easy to understand, but in the broadest sense, what do you mean by that?
Well, in the broadest sense, I mean all of the things that the people who have written me have talked about, and who the victims and survivors see the connections between sexual harassment, for which I was known, and the kind of bullying that they have experienced, the intimate partner violence. I've heard from people who have suffered that. I've heard from people who have suffered from rape and had their claims just dismissed, sexual assault victims. I'm talking about violence that is directed at people largely because of their gender. But in fact, when people think of it, they think only of women. But I'm also talking about gender violence against men. One of the first calls that I got that sort of clued me into the problem being bigger than sexual harassment, and certainly larger than me, was from a man who had been an incest survivor. And what he did was to compare his experience when he told his parents that he had been abused by a relative with the questioning and the attitudes of the Senate members. And so I really began to see that, in fact, it not only is it bigger than me, but all of these problems are connected. And if we don't deal with all of them, we're not going to make the world safe for any of us.
Well, Ms. Hill, thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you.
The book, Believing, is available now. Anita Hill, everybody. We'll be right back with the star. Hold on one second, ma'am. Of the Many Saints of Newark, Alessandro Nivola.